It's the final cat. Oh god, I just farted. Sorry. Anyway. Oh, yeah, I should do the intro first, shouldn't I? Hello! Today I thought I'd give you an overview of my very old Kemba Regent EDH deck. So here's the commander, Kemba Regent. She is a 3-drop, 2/4 legendary cat cleric who gives you a cat for each equipment she's wearing during your upkeep. She does make a lot of cats. And she's sitting in a nice top loader. And interestingly, I have a ridiculously shiny Ray Dawnbringer with a weird printing error on the foiling, which, let me see if you can see. You can see a bit of it, the line going down right there. But anyway, Raya's problem is the deck never gets to 9 mana. She is there as a noob trap for when other people borrow the deck, and I go, oh, yeah, you can have either Kemba as the commander or Raya. And people who pick Raya never cast Raya because she's just too expensive, even in Commander, the slow format. Anyway, so proceeding on to the deck. Starting off, we have cats. And this is, I have forgotten his name. I want to say Raksha, but it's not Raksha. Oh well, anyway, his effect is Vigilance, and when he attacks or blocks, you get a 1/1 Vigilant cat token attacking or blocking with him, which is quite nice. You make a cat. Then we have Cat, specifically Tajnar Swordsmith, 4-mana cat soldier who never costs 4, and if he costs 4, then you're not using his ability. He costs an additional X, and he searches for an equipment that costs X or less and puts it onto the battlefield, which is quite nice. Ideally, you want to cast him for 7, for reasons that will become apparent later. Then we have more cats. Leonin Abunus, who gives your artifacts Shroud for 4 mana. Sorry, not Shroud, Hexproof. Then he predated Hexproof. Then we have cats. More cats. Specifically, a cat lord. Regal Caracal, 5-mana cat. Other cats you control get +1/+1 and have lifelink. When it enters the battlefield, you get 2 cats with lifelink. It's a 3/3. Then we have Raksha Golden Cub, who has a little foldy bit in the corner, which is very unfortunate. I traded for or bought this off a guy, and really I should have haggled him down because this technically counts as poor quality because it's got a fold in the corner, so you can actually tell it from the back, which on any grading sites counts it as poor quality. Anyway, Raksha, I believe, is the most expensive card in the deck mana-wise. He is a 7-drop legendary cat soldier. He is, I mean, he says 3/4, but he's never a 3/4, and if he is, you're doing it wrong. He has Vigilance, and as long as he's equipped, cats you control get +2/+2 and have double strike. Ideally, he is a 5/6 double strike, which is very nice, plus whatever buffs the equipment give him. Then we leave to the rest of the humanoids, or rather, to the humanoids. And of course, we have Stoneforge Mystic. Stoneforge Mystic, if you're not aware, is a 2-drop and was banned in the last month or so of the standard environment that it was available in because it was a format warping card. When it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for an equipment, put it in your hand, and shuffle, and for 2 in a tap, put an equipment into play. In the standard environments that it was in, right at the end, it was getting Batterskull, which was quite powerful. In the set that it was made in, there wasn't actually any good equipments. Then there was an artifact block, which was full of nice equipments, and suddenly it became busted af. Then we have Grand Abolisher, who stops your opponents trying to mess with your turns. He is a 2/2 for 2. Then we have Pure Steel Paladin, a very nice shiny Pure Steel Paladin. And Pure Steel Paladin is a 2-drop 2/2 human knight that gives you a card whenever you get an equipment, and gives your equipment equip 0 as long as you've got 3 or more artifacts. Next, we have Mirroring Crusader, who is a 3-mana 2/2 double striking knight with protection from black and green. He is quite spicy. Also, you may have gotten an impression of the era that I made this deck. That impression will continue as we continue on to another card from Scars of Mirrodin Blood. Salvage Scout. A 1-drop that you can sacrifice to return artifacts from your graveyard to your hand, or just one specifically. Then we have Palace Guard, a 3-mana 1/4 soldier that can block anything. Or rather, block any number of creatures, not really anything. But, you know, stick some indestructible on that guy and he will block for days. Then we have Steel Shaper's Apprentice, a slow, expensive, repeatable version of Stoneforge Mystic. In that it's 4 to cast him, and then for 1 and tap, return him to your hand, search for an equipment, reveal it, put it in your hand, and then shuffle. So 5 mana and an extra turn later, and you have a tutor. He's kind of generally a kill on sight dude, because people see that guy and they're like, man, I definitely don't want you fetching horrible swords, and kill him. Next, we have his bigger brother, Stonehewer Giant. 5 mana, 4/4 giant warrior with vigilance, and for 1 white and a tap, search your library for an equipment card, and attach it to a creature you control, then shuffle. Which is very nice, and also amusing that it's only 1 mana more on both the casting cost and activation cost to Steel Shaper's Apprentice. It's like the difference between those two cards is so huge for so little cost. However, in the format, you're not guaranteed to get either at any given time, so it is nice to have both. Then we have Sun Titan, a 6 mana 6/6 vigilance. When it enters or attacks, you return a CMC 3 or less thing from your graveyard to the battlefield. Sun Titan is good, and again was a not as dominant as Stoneforge Mystic, but definitely existed in a lot of decks in the era that Stoneforge Mystic was around. It was an era of a lot of 6-drops that. Then we come to the Mana Dork creatures. We have a nice Foil Goldmere, who is a 2 mana 1/1 that taps for white. Then we have a nice shiny Palladium Mere, who is a 3 mana 2/2 that taps for 2. Then we have a not shiny Brass Mere, who is a 3 mana 1/3 that taps to attach an equipment you control to a creature you control. Was quite nice. Then we have Sad Robot, Solemn Simulacrum, 4 mana Artifact Golem 2/2. When it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a basic land card and put it into play tapped, then shuffle your library. When he dies, draw a card. This card was a Magic Invitational, I want to say, and the winner got his face on a card. He originally wanted the card to be a blue-green card, but they were doing an artifact block and they made it an artifact instead. Much to the happiness of literally everyone who isn't blue-green, because the effect is amazing and goes in almost every commander deck. Or it used to, I don't know if it still does these days. Or at least all the ones that aren't trying to do something specific with like a tribe or whatever. I actually don't have Sad Robot in a lot of my decks because I don't have a good reason, but, you know, it's nice to build decks that aren't literally just the same thing all the time, so there's that. Then we have a Sanctum Gargoyle, 4 mana, 2/3 flying. When it enters, return an artifact from graveyard to your hand. Then we have a super shiny Valor, who looks purple on the camera, which looks kind of cool. When I look at him, he kind of looks vaguely rainbowy because of the lighters. But anyway, Valor is a 4 mana, 2/2 first strike that, if he's in your graveyard and you have a plains, gives your creatures first strike, which is very nice. Valor and Glory! Glory is the slightly bigger incarnation, with another ability that only triggers when it's in your graveyards to give your creatures protection from the color of your choice for 3 mana, which is very spicy. Razor Hippogriff! It is a slightly bigger version of the Sanctum Gargoyle, except it also gains you life when it returns it. Then we have Steel Hellkite, who is a girthy boy. He's a 6 mana 5/5 flying dragon with colorless fire breathing, and the ability to pay X to destroy each non-land permanent with converted mana cost X whose controller was dealt combat damage by Steel Hellkite this turn, and activate this ability only once each turn. He is quite spicy if he hits. And if they got like a lot of a similar costed thing. Wormcoil Engine. It's a 6 mana 6/6 Death Touch lifelink that splits into a 3/3 Death Touch and a 3/3 lifelink when it dies. He is very good. And while I'm here, jumping ahead a bit, but I do like to show off the tokens when I show off the Wormcoil Engine, because look at that. They are quite the pretty trio. And also Raymond Swanland, I'd probably say is my favourite artist. His stuff just looks so cool. Anyway, moving on. Now we have my angels, starting with Indomitable Archangel. He's a 4 mana 4/4 flyer that gives my artifacts Shroud as long as I have 3 or more of them, which can be a downside, but is usually not. Then we have Baneslayer Angel, a 5 mana 5/5 flying first strike lifelink protection from demons and from dragons. Baneslayer do be like that. She is very good, and was quite an insult to Alara block, who was mostly dragons. Then we have Sunblast Angel, a Wrath of God in disguise, a 6 mana 4/5 flyer that destroys all tapped creatures when it enters, which is quite spicy. Then we have a Darker Valkyrie, a 6 mana 4/5 snow creature angel with flying vigilance and taps to steal a thing that's dying. And next we come to my equipments, starting with Infiltration Lens, a 1 mana 1/2 equip equipment, which when a creature becomes blocked, you draw 2 cards. Well, when the equipped creature becomes blocked. It's quite nice. It's an attempt to fix Skull Clamp, which, yeah, I guess they fixed it with that. But I still like Infiltration Lens. Then we have Swiftfoot Boots, a 2 mana 1/2 equip. Equipped creature has Hexproof and Haste, which is a fixed version of Lightning Reeves, which was Shroud and equip 0 instead. Then we have Darksteel Axe, which is 1 to play, 2 to equip, indestructible, and equipped creature gets +2/+0. It is quite nice because it just sits around forever. It doesn't get a lot done, but it gets enough done, and it's usually not worth them spending a removal spell on, and it doesn't get hit by the global removal stuff most of the time. So it is quite nice. Then we have Stratascythe, which has been a little bit made obsolete by the Blackblade Reforged, but I kind of still prefer the Stratascythe, because if someone else is also playing white, the Stratascythe is bigger, and also it pulls a land out of the deck, which is quite nice, because then you're not going to draw that land. And you can also equip it to non-legendary things without paying through the nose. And the other reason why I didn't bother Blackblade Reforged in here is because this deck is kind of a relic of its time, and I kind of don't want to change it anymore. Then we have Heartseeker, which is a 4 mana equip 5 that gives the creature +2/+1, and more relevantly, has tap, unattach Heartseeker, destroy target creature. It is some very expensive, repeatable destruction. Doesn't very often pop off, but when it does, that can win you the game very slowly. Then we have Sophie. 3 mana, equip 2. Equipped creature gets +2/+2 and has protection from red and blue. And when they deal damage to a creature, to a player, well, you get a free shock and a free card. It's quite nice. And would you guess? Next we have Sword of Light and Shadow, which is the same but pro white and pro black, and 3 life and return a creature card from your graveyard to your hand, which is quite spicy. Then we have Sword of Body and Mind, which is the green-blue one that gets you a wolf and mills them 10. And then we have probably the best one in the cycle, actually, which is pro black-green and makes them discard a card and you untap all your lands. And then we have Sword of War and Peace, which is red-white and damage and life gain equal to cards in hands, which is probably the weakest in the cycle, but, you know, it's still really good. I don't have any of the more recent swords in here, because as previously mentioned, this deck is an artifact of its time, and it's staying that way probably, unless I have a very good reason to change it. And then we have Godsend, which is Elspeth's Sword. Just 3 mana, equipped creature gets +3/+3. Whenever equipped creature blocks or becomes blocked by 1 or more creatures, you may exile one of those creatures. Opponents can't cast cards of the same name as cards exiled with Godsend. That last part is usually not relevant in Commander, but it can be, especially in a big game. Then we have Deathrender, 4 mana, +2/+2, 2 to equip. When equipped creature is put into a graveyard from play, you may put a creature card from your hand into play and attach Death Render to it. That can make people, like, specifically not kill your dudes just because they don't want to give you a free thing, which is quite nice, actually. There's, like, some slight political actions involved there, which is interesting. And then we have the complete opposite. We have World Slayer for when you want to just blow up the fucking world. And what is very nice is that this is the reprinted version that has the tasty flavor text. If that is what you seek, try looking in craters. And World Slayer is a 5 mana, 5 to equip sword that blows up the world when it hits a player. It blows up everything except World Slayer, which is nice. And then, nice, he says. Yes. It's nice if you have a way to get around that. Speaking of ways to get around that, we have the pre-release promo Sword of Keldra, which is the equipment that gave the Mirrodin set its logo, as you may well be able to tell by the fact that there's a sword there, a sword there, and a sword there, and they all kind of match. It's a 4 mana, 4 to equip, +5/+5, and Exile Touch. That second ability is kind of a meme because nothing is surviving the combat damage, and it's a trigger, not an effective damage. So you still deal the full damage to the thing, and then if it's still alive, exile it, which it probably isn't. And then we have the Shield of Keldra, which is 4/4 and makes all of the pieces involved indestructible. And is also the Darksteel set symbol. And then we have the Helm of Keldra, which is the 5th Dawn set symbol. And is 3 to play, 2 to equip, and gives First Strike, Trample, Haste, and makes a 4/4 Keldra. People say it's like pseudo-vigilance because you just pay the 1 mana again, kill the tapped token, and make a fresh one. And the only time that is important to you is if you have other equipments attached. Then we have Darksteel Plate. It is Darksteel Plate. Same equipment cast cost as the Helm of Keldra, and gives things indestructible, and is indestructible in itself. Then we have Agentum Armor, 6/6, +6/+6. When it attacks, destroy target permanent. It is quite explodey. And remember when we were talking about that card that was Warping Standard at the time and got banned? Well, here's the other part of that combo that got played. Batterskull. 5 mana, 5 to equip. The equip cost was rarely ever relevant. But Living Weapon, which it is what it sounds like. When it enters, you get a 0/0 germ and attach that to it. And the equipment gives +4/+4 vigilance and lifelink. And for 3 mana, you can return Batterskull to its owner's hand. So it can escape from removal, which is quite nice. Then we've got Bone Horde, which is another living weapon thing. 4 mana, 2 to equip. Equipped creature gets +X/+X, where X is the number of creature cards in all graveyards. It is the only living weapon equipment that has a chance to not give toughness. And that is the end of the equipment suite. And now we move on to other stuff. Starting with White Sun Zenith, which for X and 3 white, you get X 2/2 cats, and then it gets shuffled into your library. And it is an instant as well, which is spicy. In True Conviction, 6 mana, enchantment, creatures you control have double strike and lifelink. It is really good, quite expensive. It's like the second most expensive thing in the deck, but if you get that out, that is quite spicy. Assuming someone doesn't just disenchant it immediately. If you're playing Commander, you should probably have enchantment removal, because there's a lot of very spicy enchantments that you'll want to get rid of. Next, we have Little Elspeth, who does a lot of things involving making tokens, making your stuff indestructible, and giving casual buffs. Then we have Big Elspeth, who mostly blows up the world, eventually, probably, maybe, but also makes soldier tokens and gains you life. And talking of blowing up the world, we have Day of Judgment, 4 mana, destroy all creatures. And talking of blowing up the world, we have Wrath of God. The same, but they can't be regenerated. And talking of blowing up creatures, we have Phyrexian Rebirth, which is the same, but 2 mana more and gives you a big old fatty afterwards. And I can't keep doing that all day, unfortunately. Then we have Silence, which stops your opponents from casting spells this turn. Yes, that is opponents, all of them, not just one. Then we have a classic piece of removal, Oblivion Ring, in a nice and shiny form. 3 mana, when it enters, exile a thing. When it leaves, they get the thing back. Then we have an Arrest, which is 3 mana, enchanted creature can't attack or block, and its activated abilities can't be activated. Then we have a Japanese Pacify, which is 1 mana less than Arrest and is the first half of Arrest. It still allows them to use their abilities. There's an interesting story about the Japanese cards in this deck. One of my friends went to Japan, and while they were over there, they picked up one of those little half decks that you can get. He picked up the white one of those, so I got like 30 kind of casual, cheap white staples, including some pacifiers and some other things. And I stuck it in here because it's a pretty reasonable card, and it has sentimental value to me. Then we have Smite. 1 mana, destroy target destroy target blocked creature. It is very simple removal that doesn't give them something. Talking of simple removal that doesn't give them something, Condemn. Put target attacking creature on the bottom of its owner's library. They gain life equal to its toughness. So I guess they gain life. It's like a fixed version of Swords to Plowshares, which, yeah. I don't actually have Swords to Plowshares or the other one that gives them a land, mostly because they were kind of expensive at the time when I was making this deck, and I didn't have one to hand, and I had those, and those were fine. Then we have Revoke Existence. It is another Japanese card from that previously mentioned Japanese half deck. 1/1 white, sorcery, exile target, artifact or enchantment. Dispeller's Capsule. It is an artifact version of Disenchant. And most relevantly to this deck is it interacts with all the things that return artifacts and stuff, and the other artifact support, which is quite nice. And then we have Pristine Talisman. It's kind of cute. This deck doesn't have Sol Ring in it, and if any card was going to get replaced by Sol Ring, it'll be this one. But most of my Commander decks don't have Sol Ring, and honestly, I kind of think Sol Ring should just be banned in the format. Because honestly, it kind of does make it so that you only get 98 cards to put in the deck. Like, if a card is so ubiquitous that it's in 95% of Commander decks, maybe it should just not be in the format. Because it's kind of just removing the creativity from the format. And yeah, they should have banned Sol Ring long ago. And they're probably never going to ban Sol Ring, and I don't like that, but I guess I have to live with it. But I don't have to like it. Anyway, moving on, now we're onto the lands. Homeward Path, which I believe is the only card in this deck that is from a supplemental set. It's a land, taps for colorless, and taps to have everyone gain control of all the things they own. It is the anti-stealing... Swiper, no swiping! Swiper, no swiping. I'm not going to say it a third time. Swiping. Then we have a nice shiny Glimmer Post. I do not have Cloud Post in here or any of the other locuses. I don't have a good reason for that other than I had a shiny Glimmer Post. I quite like Glimmer Post. And a lot of this deck doesn't actually care if the land taps for white or not. So it went in on those accounts, which I think is fine. And look how shiny it is. Then we have New Benalia, which is quite a basic land as far as they go. Enters tapped, taps for a white. When it enters, you get to scry one, which is nice. Then we have Kabira Crossroads. Enters tapped, gains you 2 life when it enters, gives you 1 white. Honestly, this is probably the weakest land in the deck, but it's nice and shiny, and I'm a magpie. Then we have Emeria, the Sky Ruin, part of a cycle of lands that really, definitely, 100% should have been legendary. Oh my god, Wizards, what the fuck were you doing? Why were these not legendary? Jesus Christ. Anyway, Emeria, the Sky Ruin, enters tapped, and at the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 7 or more planes, you may return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. And it also taps for 1 white. Emeria is also probably... I was going to say one of the weakest in this cycle. It's not Valakut, that's for sure, but also I can't remember what any of the rest of the cycle did. So I don't think it's fair for me to say that it's the weakest. Unless there was only two in... No, they've got to have been more than two in the cycle. There's got to be... If there was only two in the cycle, then whatever. I guess it technically is the weakest because Valakut defined the format. But this isn't Valakut. This is still good. And the rest of the deck is planes. I've got one shiny planes and a few Japanese planes. And the rest is just generic era appropriate planes. And then, just because there's nothing else to speak of with this deck, we have the deck's mascot, which is Sacred Cat, and also the token of Sacred Cat, which I think is adorable, and I also love showing people when I have the opportunity. Because look at them. Look, it's the happy cat, and then the mummified version of the cat, which is a little bit sad, but also kind of cute. Then we have Kemba's boys. Kemba's boys. Then we have that Japanese cat's boys, but I don't remember his name. Someone's going to be screaming at me in the comments or in my DMs. But yeah, I'm not looking it up. He can just remain nameless. Then we have the Regal Cats boys. Then we have Elspeth's boys. Then we have Sort of Body and Mind's doggos. A germ. The original printing of germ before they decided that it is a Phyrexian germ. Then we have some Mia boys. I actually don't remember what in this deck makes Mias. Do I still have the thing in this deck that still makes Mias? I genuinely don't remember. Just sudden moments of self-reflection there. Then we have the horror token produced by the Phyrexian Unlife. Is it Phyrexian Unlife? Yeah, whatever. The Phyrexian Wrath of God effect. A Golem token, which, again, am I still running the card that made the token, or do I just have the token in there? I genuinely don't remember. And to top it all off, the two worm tokens, which are the two worm tokens. They are great. Look how pretty they are. And it's probably not going to show up very well, but I have a nice 3D printed box that I printed for them. It takes a top loader. It's quite nice. Yeah, anyway. Ooh, that was loud. Sorry. I'll probably edit that out. Right, anyway. If you like that, press the like button. If you didn't, there's the dislike button. Comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Thank you for watching. Hello. Today I thought I would do... I'll start again. Kemba Regent. Hello. Today I thought I'd give you a... And next we have Sword of Light and Shower. It's short. I tell myself I'd stop saying because it makes it easy to edit out. If I leave a silence, I can automatically edit that out. But if I go then I have to go through it and edit all the bits of I'm gonna have to edit this out. Pseudo vigilance because you just pay 4 mana again. Jesus Christ. Camera going off there made me jump. Wake the fuck up, you bastard. Where's the bloody button? Anyway,